According to our ancient traditions, on Yom Kippur, the high priest would go through intensive purification rituals, multiple immersions in a mikveh, and put on all white garments as he prepared to serve as intermediary between God and the Israelites in the Mishkan, the tabernacle, and eventually in the ancient temple. This included a tunic whose hem was lined with bells and pomegranate-shaped baubles. The high priest's hem would jingle as he approached the Holy of Holies. Eventually, he would arrive at the parochet, the veil woven of blue, purple, and crimson yarns that separated the space of the Holy of Holies from the rest of the Mishkan, or the temple. Eventually, he would cross through that veil and enter the Holy of Holies, where he would proclaim aloud the name of God 10 times. The Holy of Holies was superlative in many ways, and access therein was heavily restricted. It was only for the high priest to enter. There, the work of atonement took place, as the high priest would offer sacrifices on behalf of the community. It was a sacred, boundaried space, distinct even from the rest of the holy space of the temple. There's a rabbinic tradition that when the high priest would come back through the veil and re-enter the community, his face would glow. On Yom Kippur, at the climax of the Avodah service, the description of the temple service on Yom Kippur, our traditional liturgy includes the line, "How radiant was the high priest's face when he emerged from the Holy of Holies unscathed." Just like the face of Moses, which glowed upon receiving revelation face to face from God, the high priest would radiate after this intimate encounter with the Holy One of blessing. At this point in our modern observance of Yom Kippur, we gather together in reflective memory to do the work of Yizkor. At this poignant hour, we remember the people who entered into the sanctuaries of our hearts, the ones we let in behind the veil to see us as our truest selves. We call into our hearts and our minds the ones who helped reveal to us our own authentic beings, the ones who helped us know ourselves more deeply through knowing them. We participate in these rituals and weave our lives together, like the precious veil that separates the sacred-most space. In our lives, we are blessed to have people whom we invite into the holiest spaces of our hearts. And on a day like Yom Kippur, where we fast and wear humble white garments in a kind of spiritual rehearsal for death, mortality weighs heavily on our minds. The veil between this life and the world to come feels thinner than usual. We remember the names of our late loved ones with reverence, the way our high priest would recite the name of God aloud. As is so often the case, I find myself thinking a lot about my savta at this time of year. I've lost many extraordinary loved ones, each one a giant in my family tree. But there's something about these holidays that connects me across space and time and worlds to my dad's mom. Savta was dedicated to Judaism at her core. She raised my dad and her family's Israeli Jewish traditions as he was growing up, and she taught my mom how to cook holiday meals and how to make a Jewish home as my mom prepared for conversion so many years ago. My Jewish home today is rooted in my savta's kitchen. Also great, of course, were the presents I received as a child. Savta bought us the book Caps for Sale and would read it tirelessly to me. Her Israeli throatiness lent the book a rhythm and melody nobody could quite replicate, and it was my favorite. She also sent us awesome packages for Purim from Long Island to wherever we were living at the time. These shlach manot were filled with goodies and cards and handmade Esther and Mordechai puppets. My brother and I weren't the only ones who adored my savta. My sister didn't have the blessing of knowing her, but she carries her name and her spirit. It seems like everyone who ever saw my savta, met her, heard her voice, or shared a smile with her found her to be worthy of blessing. And so when we found out she had terminal lung cancer, there was a shever, a cosmic shattering, and already we could feel the light dimming in the world. I was only in first grade, but I knew something was wrong. Suddenly, my parents were pulling me and my brother out of school with greater regularity so we could fly to New York and visit with savta. We even took poor savta, by then barely walking, to Disney World so her grandchildren could make some lasting memories with her. We, of course, just thought it was great to go to Disney World. On one of our many trips, on all of our many trips to New York, our parents, hoping to distract us from their own anxiety, I see now, and wanting to provide us with educational experiences despite missing so much school, let us explore the American Museum of Natural History. Despite my absolute love and fascination of dinosaurs, it was not the massive reconstruction of the Stegosaurus that piqued my young interest. Deep down in the depths of the museum, between the mammals and the Hall of Biodiversity, is the Hall of Ocean Life. I walked in bravely, boldly, despite being horrified by many of the creepy, crawlied, tentacled monsters in the room. I had eyes only for one creature, the blue whale. Suspended epically from the ceiling of the wide, dark chamber, the blue whale was a giant. It captivated me, it fascinated me, and it became a part of me. In October that year, we made another trip to New York. We went to the hospital. Safta's smile was huge, whether she was extra delighted by our presence or dwarfed by the poison killing her cancer and the rest of her, we didn't know. Embarrassed by her then bald head, she insisted on wearing colorful scarves as turbans. She didn't want to alarm her grandbabies. I thought she looked fabulous, but at my age, I was blissfully unaware of the graying of her skin, the pain in her remaining lung, and the ultimate exhaustion she was facing. My Safta died that October. She died on the same day as her husband, but 16 years later. United through love in death as in life, she and Saba Abi share a yahrzeit each year. I often think back to those days I spent dreamily imagining the life of the blue whale under the sea, the freedom the whale experienced being the largest animal in an infinite water. In those young, troubling days, I felt like Jonah, or more accurately, like his opposite, so captivated by the whale. But it was like I'd been swallowed up inside the belly not of the whale, but of the uncertainty and anxiety around me. Jonah's words could have been my own. Karati mitzara li el Adonai v'ya'aneni, mi beten sha'ol shivati, shemata v'koli. In my trouble, I called to God, and God answered me. From the belly of Sheol, I cried out, and you heard my voice. In a sense, I found the dark room housing the blue whale in the museum to be a great, wide open space, so different from the tight, constricted, bustling hospital room that held my Safta. Dr. Ruth Stone teaches us about Psalm 118, the phrase, Min hametzar karati ya, anani v'merchav ya. From the narrow place, I called out to God. God answered me with expansiveness. Hametzar, like Mitzrayim, the Hebrew word for Egypt, is based on the Hebrew word tsar, or narrow, and suggests a narrow place. Merchav builds on the Hebrew root, which means wide, expansive, or spacious. The movement from a narrow, constricting place to a wide expansiveness is dramatic. We can feel it. That hospital room was a metzar, a very narrow place. I wasn't Jonah caught in the belly of the whale. I was Elle, liberated by the whale. Jonah's narrow place was inside the whale, but my experience was the opposite. The physical merchav, the wideness of the giant room with the whale in it at the museum, was God's merchav, God answering my needs with space. I trusted in the possibilities that were housed in that enormous room, in the quiet, in the solitude I experienced walking around, resting on the ground in the cavernous hollow beneath that giant whale. I recently had the chance to visit my old friend, the blue whale. I hadn't been back in a long time, and I stood beneath that whale, gazing up and seeing nothing but my Safta's face. On days like today, I think about the person she knew in me. I think about what she'd think of me now. Soren Kierkegaard once said the most painful state of remembering is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have. At Yizkor, that's basically what we're doing. We recall our memories of a shared past, but we also consider the futures we lost with the ones we love. Ultimately, I, like many of us, mostly regret the conversations that went unhad. I wonder what advice she'd give me, what joy she'd express at my successes, what comfort she'd give me when I fail. This goes for all the loved ones I'm remembering, and maybe it does for you too. What if we approach this service as an invitation to imagine some of those conversations, to call into our mind's eye the faces of the ones we're remembering, and to even call up the memory of their voices, Could you imagine breaking the silence, even just for a moment? Can you imagine sharing the sacred rooms of your heart with your loved ones once more? On a day filled with restrictions, a holy day with a narrow focus, may our Yizkor offerings bring us spaciousness within. May we hold space for pain and grief and anguish for loved ones lost in recent days or many seasons ago. May we also hold space for the gratitude of our shared time and the legacies we carry forward. In every heart there is a room, a sanctuary safe and strong. Together we approach that room with tenderness, like our high priest entered the Holy of Holies. Memory is a complicated, messy, heavy, joyful, painful, sacred thing. May we receive its holiness at this sacred hour, and may the memories of our cherished loved ones always be for us an enduring blessing of spaciousness and connection. Amen.